The fall of man is a pivotal event in the Bible, found primarily in Genesis 3. It explains how sin entered the world and altered the relationship between humans and God. Here's a summary. 1. Creation of Adam and Eve. In Genesis 2, God created the first man, Adam, from the dust of the earth and placed him in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with beautiful plants, rivers, and trees. Adam was given the task of tending to the garden. God also created Eve from one of Adam's ribs to be his companion. Together, they lived in harmony with God and all the creatures of the garden. 2. The forbidden tree. God gave Adam and Eve everything they needed in the garden, but he placed one restriction on them. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, located in the middle of the garden. He commanded them not to eat from it, stating that if they did, they would surely die. 3. The serpent's temptation. In Genesis 3, the serpent approached Eve and questioned God's command. The serpent told her that eating the fruit from the forbidden tree would not lead to death. Instead, it would open their eyes and make them like God, knowing good and evil. He suggested that God was withholding something good from them. 4. The disobedience. Eve, enticed by the serpent's words, ate the fruit from the tree. She also gave some to Adam, and he ate it as well. As soon as they ate, their eyes were opened, and they realized they were naked. Feeling shame, they sewed fig leaves together to cover themselves. 5. God's confrontation. When God walked through the garden and called out to Adam and Eve, they hid themselves, ashamed of their nakedness. God asked them how they knew they were naked, and if they had eaten from the tree. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. 6. The consequences of sin. God then pronounced consequences for each of them. The serpent. God cursed the serpent to crawl on its belly and eat dust for the rest of its life. He also foretold that there would be enmity between the serpent and the woman's offspring, signifying a spiritual struggle between good and evil. Eve. God told Eve that her pain in childbirth would greatly increase, and her desire would be for her husband, who would rule over her. Adam. God cursed the ground because of Adam's disobedience. He would have to work hard for food, and ultimately, he would return to the dust from which he was made, signaling death. 7. Expulsion from Eden. To prevent Adam and Eve from eating from the tree of life and living forever in their fallen state, God expelled them from the Garden of Eden. He placed cherubim and a flaming sword to guard the entrance, ensuring they could not return. 8. The promise of redemption. Despite the severity of their actions, God did not abandon Adam and Eve. He made them garments of skin to cover their nakedness and promised that one day, through the offspring of the woman, someone would crush the serpent's head, a prophecy that Christians interpret as pointing to Jesus Christ, who would ultimately defeat sin and Satan. Significance of the fall of man, explains how sin entered the world through and how it affected not only Adam and Eve, but also all of creation. It is a foundational story in Christian theology, representing the break in the relationship between God and humanity. The fall sets the stage for the need for redemption, which Christians believe is fulfilled through Jesus Christ. The story also highlights themes like free will, temptation, and the consequences of sin.